Hey, Girls Gone Wild! I have a new episode of the old 52. Now, those of you who are playing late, the old 52 is sort of my take on the new 52 thing, where I'm examining old number ones of defunct series that are no longer with us, sadly. Even if they're characters that are still doing books, it seems like everything's been canceled at least once, with the exception of Spawn. Good work, Todd McFarlane. Now, this week we are analyzing Justice League 1. Hey, which one's that? Well, I'm talking about this one. This is the Keith Giffen years, and I don't have the individual issue for this. I started buying the book about around issue 20, and so I have, I'm reviewing this in trade. Now, this series was done by Keith Giffen, J.M. Demetrius, and Kevin Maguire. Now, the way the writing team worked was Giffen did kind of the stories, and Demetrius would do all the dialogue, which was one of the selling points, really, because the dialogue was always really rich and funny, by the way. And Kevin Maguire was the first artist on this title. They had a few other artists here and there, but to be honest, they never got any better than this one. Although Adam Hughes and Bart Sears was on this book for a while, but I think Maguire was on it the longest. And this, of course, is the Justice League without the America on it, and what that idea was that it was going to be more of a international kind of team, taking care of problems all over the world, and actually intergalactically as well, so they decided to kind of like broaden it that way. That was one of the things. This is post-Crisis, by the way, that reboot in the 80s. So what they were doing was, the history wasn't erased with the Justice League. There was still the previous Justice League of the original core group, which actually that was the thing. The original core group was rewritten actually, and for those of you who don't know or may not remember, the original group of Justice Leaguers was Green Lantern, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, and let's see, I think somebody else too. But here's the thing. They couldn't work Wonder Woman's new continuity into that, so they removed her and put Black Canary as one of the founding members. I know, it's always complicated, isn't it? But then we move on to the rest of DC, the DC 70s with the big groups, and here's the thing. Wonder Woman, according to the new post-Crisis continuity, just showed up for the first time. So there was kind of this history before she joined. So I don't know. It was kind of hard to work out. But what they were doing was starting with the present, and it does acknowledge some stuff happened, especially the Detroit Justice League, which Martian Manhunter was part of, and they had lost some members, by the way. And that's acknowledged first run. But what was interesting about this series was it had a more humorous bent to it, which I thought was a lot of fun. It was really, really entertaining to read, with a lot of snappy dialogue, and especially the first year's worth of issues, there was a lot of action to go around. Although the book turned more humorous after a couple years, but the first season, I guess you could call it, the first couple of years, they were able to maintain a pretty good balance of action and humor. And with Batman leading the team, by the way, this is like the most serious Batman ever, because it's post-Crisis Batman. And they still were able to figure out like how to make him work in kind of a humorous situation. Well, the Justice League is gathered, and at the old headquarters, the old cave headquarters, Guy Gardner is the Green Lantern that's part of this team. Black Canary is the first to show up after him in her Jazzercise outfit, the 80s. Then there's Mr. Miracle and O'Brien, his sidekick, Captain Marvel. And then following them is Martian Manhunter and Blue Beetle. Now that's when things start to get kind of dicey, because Guy Gardner insists on being the leader, and that's it. You're all doing his business. And of course that doesn't sit well with Black Canary, who's been a leaguer for, in this continuity since the beginning. And of course that instantly starts a fight. Canary and Gardner instantly hate each other. and Batman and Dr. Fate arrive late. And what happens while they walk in, they see everyone fighting, and what happens is what I once described as my favorite Batman moment ever. All these guys with these superpowers, Manhunter and Black Canary and Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter and everybody, like fighting around. Dr. Fate says, let me handle this. And Batman says, no, allow me. And what he does is simply walk through the crowd. When they see him, they stop. And he walks right up to Guy and says, sit down. Love it. That's how you write badass Batman. Oh, and he just takes over. That's it. This is my Justice League, bitches. And while he's conducting the meeting, he's realizing that, you know, that might not be rubbing everybody the right way. Like Mr. Miracle has some doubts about him. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, Dr. Light, the female Japanese, not evil, not rapist Dr. Light, the other Dr. Light. I don't know why DC had two, but and they also have the same costume too. And anyway, she's at the United Nations, and she was about to, you know, take part in a meeting, but it's attacked by terrorists. Now, she wasn't going to join Justice League. She has no interest in being part of Justice League, but apparently some mysterious guy walked in, handed her a communicator, and said, hey, just hold on to this. And she said, sure, okay. Not even understanding why she agreed to that. Now, of course, that's Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord has a superpower where he can convince people to just do whatever he wants just by asking them or telling them. It's not too dissimilar to Jesse Custer's power in Preacher, just not done as graphically gross as Garth Ennis would often do. And anyway, she encounters this terrorist group, so hey, she has this communicator on her, so she rings for help, which actually confuses the Justice League. They thought everyone was here. Oh, Dr. Light's part of this? Alright. Well, we see the Justice League group go into action with Batman in charge, and Batman prefers to do the Justice League as a more covert team. Not the usual, normal, high-profile kind of team they normally are. So he sneaks them in, he's ordering them around, and not everybody seems to really like being ordered around like he does. So he flies the team in, and they systematically find out, you know, how to pick apart the team, what's exactly going on. Their leader claims to have a bomb attached to his chest, that once his heart stops beating, it explodes and blows up the whole building. So they have to be delicate. So they have to try and figure out, like, how serious is the situation? Does he really have this? The action is, you know, pretty fast-paced and exciting, and everyone, like, plays their part. And of course, Guy Gardner is hoping, like, throughout the whole adventure that someone shoots Batman. He's an asshole. And at the end, Batman calls his bluff and just evacuates the room. Goes, okay, do it. Go knock yourself out. We're leaving. And he does shoot himself in the head, and guess what? The bomb didn't work. So there was somebody behind the scenes pulling the strings on that. Like, what was that about? That's all I'm going to say right now, but pretty exciting. I really did enjoy this. This was one of my favorite. This and the Grant Morrison run on Justice League are my two favorite runs on the book, I think. And of course, they're polar opposites on the way they pursued the Justice League. And neither one is superior as far as I'm concerned. They're both a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out any of the Griffin Demetrius Justice League, highly recommend it. The back issues aren't that expensive, or you could just find the trades, like this one. I think this one's out of print. I think there's other versions of this. But I do highly recommend checking out. Anyway, push the button, Lindsay.